righty, hello, and thank you everyone. Thanks for joining us for our retailer webinar that is hosted by TruAge. So I'm Casey Brand. I work as a standards coordinator for Conexxus. I have a few quick things to go through before we'll get started today. A little bit of housekeeping about Conexxus, then we'll have our presentation and then a Q&A session. So a little bit of housekeeping. A replay will be made available on Conexxus365.org afterwards. So it will be on demand for anybody who wants to see it again or who might have missed it. You can send your questions directly through the Zoom Q&A interface. So please feel free to send those in early. The sooner you get them in, the sooner the panelists will have a chance to answer them. This is quite a big registration list today. So if you don't get it in early, they may not see it, but feel free to reach out to them afterwards if your question doesn't go across. So PCI credits are available for qualifying live events. So please make sure you contact us if you're interested in that. So this is just a slide that our lawyer makes us put in. The views and opinions are solely of the speakers and not Conexxus itself. A huge thank you and a shout out to our 20 sponsors at Conexxus. The extra support is really appreciated and allows us to continue the work that we do on behalf of the industry. So a little bit about Conexxus. We are a nonprofit technology organization. Our members really do the heavy lifting. We provide a neutral forum where retailers and vendors can network and come together to create standards and solutions that are beneficial to our industry, including the ones used in the development of TruAge, which you'll see today. We educate through white papers and events like this one at Conexxus365, and we advocate on a technical level at other organizations to help steer the conversation around standards and policies so that changes don't negatively affect your business. So Conexxus365 is an education-based platform. You can find previous webinars and events at Conexxus365.org. We're currently undergoing a transition to update our webinar platform. So make sure you join us again in February 2023 for our next webinar, and make sure you sign up for our email list. You can also follow Conexxus on LinkedIn or look for us at Conexxus.org. And now I'll turn it over to Kyle McKean with TruAge.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining today's TruAge webinar. Today, you're going to hear from members of the TruAge team about a system devised by the National Association of Convenience Stores in partnership with Conexxus. Now, this system offers the very best protection for retailers and our customers. TruAge represents one of the most researched, most secure, most supported industry efforts in recent times. TruAge protects retailers from fines, regulatory intervention, PII violations, and additional transaction fees. TruAge protects consumers from identity theft, additional transaction delays, and added costs. Maybe, and most importantly, it protects minors from age-restricted products and social markets. As a retailer in New Mexico, we operated convenience stores in New Mexico, and two things kept me up at night. Fuel trucks on icy roads, and the fact that at that time in the state of New Mexico, if a store associate unfortunately was to sell alcohol to an intoxicated minor, they were subject to a felony charge. And I wasn't so sure that we had the right tools to prevent the latter. So when I heard about TruAge and the efforts that were underway to develop actually what we feel is the perfect system, I knew I had to be involved. So what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to learn is what is TruAge and why do we need it? What did consumers and retailers think about it when we tested it in markets? When will it be ready for your stores? And what do you need to do next? We'll follow up with a Q&A. And to access the Q&A, there's a button at the bottom of the screen. We're going to do it you just type in your question. With the quantity of folks attending today, it's going to be much easier to manage it if your questions are submitted type. So Lisa, can I get, so TruAge, our mission, right? TruAge is committed to safely and simply keep age-restricted products out of the hands of minors. And you know, we're supported by not only NACS and Conexxus, but the largest names in the industry, either via sponsorship with the manufacturers and seats on our executive board that include manufacturers and large and small retailers. So we have wide range of support. Lisa, next slide. And really why, right? Every day in convenience stores in the United States, there are 54 million transactions that involve age-restricted products. But there's no consistent universal methodology for managing those transactions. That's why TruAge has been developed. And really the why, convenience stores, we sell 90% of tobacco and tobacco alternatives. We sell relatively half the beer sold in the United States, along with all of these other restricted products. And just the sheer volumes require that we put a system in place to manage just each and every one of these products that flow through our stores. And you combine the volume of transactions with the products, and then you look at what's happening in states where we have mandatory carding. There's a new law coming into effect in Nevada in January. You look at the product legalities by state and different municipalities. We've got new product limits in tobacco alternatives. We have different points of delivery with curbside. You know, all of the points of delivery that COVID brought to the marketplace. You match that with, you know, the current manual process. You look at the fact that you know, turnover continues to become even more of an issue in our industry, and then, you know, delivery demands, and then just the cost if each of these retailers, if each of us were out there trying to devise our own system. So I'm going to turn this over to Jeff Leonard, who runs communications for TruAge. He's going to talk a little bit about the state of the industry and what's going on in the marketplace. Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kyle. My name's Jeff Leonard. I've been with NACS 23 years and part of the team that oversees brand image. And as Kyle talked about, you really get excited about the opportunities for new ways of selling products in looking at, you know, post-COVID with delivery and curbside and things like that, and also potentially new products. But like all retailers, what keeps us up at night is the challenges. And certainly one of those challenges is when the government looks at how you're doing your job and makes determinations that they think they know how to do your job better than you do. And that usually winds up badly. You can see some of the headlines here looking at sting rates. They are relatively the same year over year. That is something that the government looks at and says, hey, you know, if you guys can't figure out a better way, then maybe we ought to. So that's one of the reasons that we're looking at TruAge. Next slide, please. You can see what happens. Here's a couple metrics that just show what happens when the government decides that it knows how to do your job better than you do. When you put some sort of product bans or flavor bans or things like that, you can see the effect that it has on in-store sales. On that left side, you can see what took place in California. On the right side, you can look at the amount that it impacts New York City sales, New Jersey sales, when you limit products as the way to limit access to minors. TruAge is a better way where we're looking at providing the proper access with the proper restrictions in place. And my colleagues will dive much more into that. I have a couple more slides I just want to use to set up the whole idea of image and why we looked at this. Probably the slide or the issue that gets people's attention, gets retailers' attention, is talking about how one of the reasons that we're looking at TruAge is we don't want another swipe fees battle. We have been addressing, as an industry, as an association, we've looked at swipe fees for over 20 years. And in fact, at the 2001 NACS show, we had a session on fueling. And we had a polling opportunity in this general session where we asked retailers, what is the top issue related to fueling? Does it have to do with new types of fuels, competition, all these other criteria, or credit card and debit card fees? And debit and credit card fees, swipe fees dominated. We have, over the last 20 years, tried to address the issue. We've had success with debit. We're looking at how do we get success with credit, but it is very, very difficult to change a system once it's been put in place. So the idea behind TruAge is let's create the system before someone else creates that system that is very difficult to switch. And on the right-hand side, we just put together some just quick back of the envelope numbers related to what Kyle had alluded to earlier, the 54 million transactions a day, and looking at the average basket for a age-restricted sale. The average basket in convenience store is about $15. When you look at a 1.5% VIG, which is roughly in line with what you'd see with swipe fees, even if 10% of customers, only 10% of customers were carded, it's a $500 million a year hit to our industry. You can see it accelerates if we're required to do 100% carding. So TruAge is very much a look at the future, at future-proofing technology, but also ensuring that it's done right and these costs aren't prohibitive. Next slide, please. So the best way to explain it is that set up with swipe fees. And this slide just kind of goes through why NACS and why now. NACS has a 50-year history of looking at solutions for age verification. 9 years ago, we were proactive in taking the stance that e-cigarettes, which were not yet the FDA did not yet have a stance on how they should be handled. We took a stance. We did that proactively. It relates to being good partners in communities and industry image, and it's what we do. So we understand the retail community. We think we have the best solution out there, and we have a wide breadth of partners that support us in this. And of course, why now? There's a bunch of reasons. The technology is in place. The use of mobile phones is in place. The look towards mobile driver's licenses is on the horizon. And consumers are ready. This is something that they're very comfortable with. So before I turn it over to my colleague, Steph Sikorsky, who will talk about the value proposition, we have a short video that we have online that just gives a quick summary of the TruAge proposition that sets up Steph's talk. So let's roll the video.
The new world of retail is here, but are you ready for it? There are more ways to shop, more points to interact, and more checkpoints to verify ID. Now imagine adding another age-restricted product to the mix. Finally, there's a breakthrough solution to help you build for the future. Introducing TruAge, the only digital ID system that verifies a customer's age at every point of sale, in-store purchases, online orders, curbside pickups, and even home deliveries, while keeping their personal data private. Because, let's be honest, manual ID checks leave room for error and put your business at risk. People want a solution they can trust to shut down sales to minors. And you need a smarter ID system that makes transactions quick and painless on both sides of the counter, works with your existing POS setup and enhances their in-app experience, and protects your business, your employees, and your customers. Now you can take the lead to ensure that your store isn't the one selling to minors. TruAge takes the guesswork out of the age verification process while opening up more opportunities to grow your business. It's easy to expand your products and even unlock new channels to sell them. There's never been a more reliable way to keep age-restricted products out of underage hands. Join TruAge to help us lead the future of retail and be the first to get access.
Thanks for teeing that up, Jeff. So I'm going to spend just a little bit of time here. We've got about 4 slides before I turn it over to another colleague, Lisa, to do a deeper dive into some of the data for us. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the core tenets of the TruAge product offering, which is basically what we put together as we took a look at what's the end state product vision here for TruAge. What have we learned along the way over the last 3 years as we've been building this, as we've been doing our research with both retailers, POS providers that will be our partners in this, and most importantly, consumers who are going to use this. We found that first and foremost, there has to be channel ubiquity, which means that it can't just be available in one location. It can't be available in just one market in order for consumers to not only download and adopt this as we think about moving into the app stage. It has to be available in more locations so it's convenient for them and part of their everyday habits. While we're talking about convenience right now, our vision is to roll this out in grocery, also restaurants, clubs, as you think about concerts. So we've explored those venues as well. We also know that certainly COVID taught us this as well, that it has to go beyond just bricks and mortar. We also have to be able to think about how this functions with delivery and how can it be used online as well. Importantly, there's the authenticity of the ID. So when we created this and took a look at how we pull it together, I'll show this in a slide in a second. We needed to make sure that it was going to be safe and secure. We wanted to make sure that it also protected privacy and that we're not taking any extra information that we don't need to in order to say, hey, you're old enough. We don't need to know your age. We don't need to know your age. We don't need to know your height or your weight or your eye color, your address. We just need to know that you're of legal age to purchase the products that you're looking for. When we think about government and regulatory items that are coming up, when we think about our role as a channel and as responsible retailers, what we can do to help curb and hopefully eliminate social selling, systemic volume limitations was really important to us as well. This is making sure that as things come up, if there's both either product or category levels that need to be in place, that with our system, we're able to set those. So again, it helps to take some of the guesswork out of the retailer, as well as for those that are behind the counter. And importantly, we found in our research that it also needs to be free. While we first thought that this was going to be something that if there's $1 attached to it, especially for consumers, that it would be more trustworthy. And we learned in our research that in order for this to be adopted, free was the way to go. And when we talk about consumers, it also extends to retailers, our POS providers as well. And again, all the way back to channel ubiquity, we need to make sure that it's as convenient and as available and turnkey as possible for those that are using it. In the next slide here, I'll walk through some of the TruAge basics and the options. So keeping those 5 tenets in place, we knew that the system had to be integrated. We needed to make sure that it didn't just work for one POS system, it had to work across them all. It also needed to work for validation. We needed to make sure that we would have a log so that there was proof of verification to protect both sides of the counter. It had to be versatile. So as we think about driver's licenses, we had to make sure that it wasn't just one state that could be issued. As we explore for the future, we're also taking a look at how are other forms of ID going to be used, such as passports. As we think about rolling beyond just the US market, what does that look like as we would think about something international? So our team is evaluating all of that again, so that there's not only that versatility, but it remains ubiquitous. Free, as we talked about on the last side, and that covers the retailers, the POS providers, and consumers. Lisa will get into a little bit of this, but it also has to be super easy to use. Someone doesn't need to have to think about it, as we're talking about the convenience factor and not having to fumble for, something in your purse or your wallet. Not only the transaction, but also the learning for those that we're working with in terms of the first of the retailers to pull this out. For the data, we needed to make sure that the retailer wasn't responsible for any of the customer information, that the transaction, again, is as seamless as possible, where the consumer feels safe and the retailer knows that they've completed the transaction with the information that they need to show that it was the correct proof of sale. And then for options, this was important to us as well. As we take a look at how we're building for the future, we need to make sure that there's controls and rules at the retail level. We've heard an awful lot about loyalty program integration, so that is included as we think about the rollouts here and how it can be as seamless as possible so that consumers aren't having to move back and forth between multiple apps. We also needed access control technology for gaming rooms, beer caves. So again, thinking about the evolution of technology, both inside the convenience space, as well as other channels that we might roll out to. Moving on to the next slide, as simple as this looks, this is exactly the type of model that we wanted to keep in mind when we explain the technology. We didn't want it to be complicated. In order for it to work, we need to make sure that we can talk through as seamless as possible. So when we talk about how TruAge works, just explaining it in terms of a consumer's process at the checkout, TruAge would confirm that you're old enough to make the purchase. Importantly, that's without revealing personal information, like I mentioned previously, your eye color, your height, your weight, your address. Unlike some of the other ID scanning systems, it's extracting only those 4 pieces of information. A lot of learning along the way here. There's more than 30 plus available data points on a driver's license. And again, our system just needs to know that you're of age and of legal age to purchase those products. So we're taking a look at driver's license number, the issuing state, the expiration date, and of course, date of birth. Once it's got those 4 pieces, it encrypts those data points. It creates an anonymous digital token that verifies that you are old enough to purchase that age-restricted product. As you see here, we've got 2 different forms here. What we've been referring to as phase 1, or kind of the out-of-the-gate version for TruAge, is simply handing your physical ID to the cashier at checkout. They would scan the barcode on the back using the TruAge system. Again, because you don't have to manually enter the information, it helps to both privatize and protect the data, and it's much more secure than the traditional ID check. Alternatively, as we look towards the future for the TruAge app, this would require the scanning of the unique QR code. As you see here on the screen, you would do that directly from your phone, pulling up the app. The cashier would scan the QR code from your phone in the TruAge app. They would only see the photo as shown here, as well as the confirmation that you're of legal age to complete the purchase. So again, your name, your address, other pieces of information would remain protected on here. From there, it's just simply paying how you choose to, and you are on your way. And in the next slide, as you'll see in a second here, wanted to walk through what the learning chronology was for us and how we got to where we were in what TruAge has formed into. So as I mentioned, it's been a 3-year process here for us, and I am going to turn it over to Lisa just to walk through kind of where we are with the focus on the final 3 that you see here in the box.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So as Stephanie said, this is the most researched initiative NACS has ever undertaken. And while we won't belabor the early stages with you, what's really important to know is that at every step of the way, we wanted to ensure that the consumer was right there with us, and not just the consumer, but the retailer as well. So we actually are going to spend a little bit of time talking about the in-market testing that we did over the summer. We'll give you a little peek at how we designed those tests, what we learned, and then we also did a follow-up piece of quantitative research with about 1,300 adults who are purchase age-restricted items in convenience stores, so that we can make sure that what we saw in pilot, which is a relatively smaller sample size, actually bore out in the greater market. So in the proof of concept test, what you need to know is that we set up 2 different operating environments so that we could see which worked best. We did them in 2 very different markets, one in greater Austin, Texas area, and one in downtown Los Angeles. We tested all aspects of the TruAge platform. We tested driver's license scans as well as the TruAge app itself and the scanning of that app. In addition to the typical customer just coming through all of those convenience stores, going through the TruAge system, we also recruited 40 incremental consumers between the ages of 21 and 40 who are purchasers of age-restricted items at C-stores, and we gave them the app to give us some more detailed learning on how they felt about the in-store experience using the app, as well as how they felt about the marketing that they saw and the interactions with the staff in each of the stores. What's important to know is that we met with each of the store managers and their staff bi-weekly for about 5 months while we were running this program, so that we could really understand what was going on, not only from the online community of consumers, but also from the folks on the front line at what they were seeing day in, day out. A couple of great pieces of feedback. As I mentioned, we tested 2 different operating systems, one that was fully integrated and one that sort of rode alongside your point of sale system. And what we found is that in particular for our higher volume stores, particularly those that are dealing with fuel as well, you have to have an integrated system. So what we have done is we've moved the Dash technology out from being in mainstream, and really are using that for some of the things Stephanie mentioned, like access control. So if you have a door to a beer cave, we can use a standalone system such as the TruAge Dash that will unlock and lock the beer cave door so that only those people of age can enter. If you have a gaming room, similarly. But knowing that we needed a fully integrated system, particularly during those rush periods, was critical learning for us. Another thing that's important, and you're probably all wondering, well, gee, if I'm going to put in this system and I'm going to be carding all these people, are they just going to walk out and go across the street to someplace that might not be as on top of carding folks, and am I going to lose sales? And so we actually monitored the sales of all the different age-restricted categories in the pilot stores, and there was no measurable change whatsoever in sales volumes versus same week prior year or during prior period versus the testing windows. And there were no concerns from the retail partners at that time of any lost sales due to carding or scanning practices that may have been different than what their consumers were used to. From a staffing standpoint, there were a lot of ahas here. And as you guys know, running these stores day in, day out, there always are. So what the first thing we learned is that overall carding rates were lower than people had anticipated that their cashiers were actually doing. So the system gives you the ability to see just how many age-restricted transactions you are carding for versus bypassing. And you can then work on those exceptions and such with your teams. We also learned from the associates they really liked the ability to blame the system or a policy that they have to card somebody versus the perception that they made that decision on their own. So that conflict that comes with carding or asking someone for an ID, particularly when you think about the typical person behind the counter, they do not want to have to engage in that. So for them to be able to say, look, this isn't me deciding whether or not I'm going to card you. This is just either our policy or what the system is asking me to do, really brought it a long way and got them very comfortable very quickly. What we also learned is staff comfort with accepting the TruAge app is really critical to the consumer's confidence in using the app. And so that is why when we launch, we're going to be launching with the driver's license scan to begin with. And then we're going to be layering in the app because we want to make sure that we have the time and each of the stores has the time to get everyone comfortable with this new digital process. And training is going to be very important. It's very easy to use because it is integrated. So there's virtually nothing to learn when it comes to driver's license scans. But, when we introduce the app, we do want to make sure that everyone understands exactly how to use that. And then the most important person, the consumer. How did they feel about all of this? The first thing, and everybody was super concerned, they're going to be super unhappy that I'm carding them. And we actually encountered little to no resistance in scanning IDs or carding in any of our environments. And the best part is that we actually saw there was a positive reaction and a brand halo back to the retailer when they actually understood why we were carding them. So as you guys all probably have, tons of regulars are coming in, day out, and they've never been carded. You know them by their first name. You probably know their kids. But when you ask them for ID, they kind of were like, why? You know who I am? When they explained, look, we're just trying to keep these products out of the hands of underage minors and we're putting in this new system. Everybody was absolutely thrilled by that and had no problem doing it. They also took a lot of heart in the fact that there was no personal information being captured. So that was very critical. So, they handed over their license. They wanted to know, okay, what are you doing with that? And when we were in Texas, we did see that there was the inability to read a Mexican driver's license was a pain point, but the system does allow for a manual entry. And again, as Stephanie mentioned, we are looking at alternate forms of ID downstream. Because we didn't want to rely solely on the sample size of our pilot markets, this pulls from the quantitative survey we fielded as a follow-up. And we did ask consumers specifically, how do you feel about getting carded? And interestingly enough, 75% either enjoy it or don't mind it at all. There's literally only 12% of the population that don't like it or absolutely hate it. And then when we asked agreement with certain statements, 78% of the population actually prefers to shop at stores that card people. And what we like the most, and what we did find in the qualitative as well as in the quant, is that positive brand halo back to the retail brand. Stores that card everyone buying alcohol, tobacco, or vape products, regardless of how old they look, are responsible retailers. Okay, but what about this 12%? And you're wondering, are they going to get hostile? Are they going to be belligerent to my employees? What do I do about these folks? Yes, there are always going to be a population of people who don't like that. But the upside is when we asked that 12% why they didn't like being carded, the fact of the matter is all of these reasons are things that TruAge will address. So it's inconvenient. It takes too much time. I don't have my ID on me. I can't help anything about, I don't think it's necessary. But everyone has their phone. They always have their phone with them. It takes a split second. And particularly for women, I feel uncomfortable sharing my personal information with a stranger. We see that spike, particularly for women, as they think about the different environments where they're showing their ID. While the app is a little way off, we wanted to take the opportunity to make sure that we were consumer ready with the app as soon as we wanted to be. And so we wanted to just share with you a little bit about what the consumers had to say about onboarding and using the TruAge app. So they see the app as a reliable, innovative, and helpful tool. It is really that next iteration of what they would have expected from digital technology. And they love the versatility of it. So the ability to use this not only in convenience stores, but across all of the places that they are going to get carded, whether it be concerts and festivals, bars and clubs, grocery stores, mass retailers. And for us, what was critical is that it was just super, super easy to use. So we wanted them to be able to onboard very simply, understand exactly what was going on, and just be able to pull it up. And so a few quotes from some of the consumers: easy to onboard, simple to add onto my phone, convenient as a backup. And we actually had them say, well, gosh, if you had to describe it as a person, how would you describe it? And they said, TruAge would be a reliable, handy, and simple person not a lot of gratuitous or circuitous chit chat. They know exactly what to say, exactly when it needs to be said, right? So just a very straightforward app, so very easy to understand and to use. And throughout the pilot, the consumers went in and purchased things using their app. And we asked them at the end, gosh, would you use this again? And 9 out of 10 of them said absolutely they would use TruAge again. They loved the convenience of it. They love embracing new technologies. And they really find it to be a much more convenient way to handle things. And when they think about traveling, when they think about, the different environments they're in, they feel safer having just their phone there rather than having to deal with a wallet, a purse, and a phone. Finally, the most important part, right? The TruAge concept. We asked, we gave people a brief description of what it is because they were not part of the pilot, and said, how do you feel? Are you interested in using this? And no matter how we slice it, we have great interest in this product. So what you see up here on the upper left-hand corner is among alcohol purchasers, tobacco purchasers, or vape e-cig purchasers. Top 2 box interest, upwards of 62 to 70, almost 75%, regardless of your race, interested in using it, region of country. Other than region 5, everyone across the board seems very excited about getting to use that. Region 6, obviously being the West Coast. So you're going to expect to see that a little bit higher with all the technology that way. And then when we even look at, back to that carding point, people on both ends of the spectrum, this is probably my favorite piece of information that we learned, because it's really hard to find a product that makes people happy on both ends of the spectrum like this. So for people who like being carded and people who hate being carded, they all universally love this idea of what they're going to do. So when you see those lower scores, it's really those people in the middle that just don't have an opinion on carding that brings the overall average down into the 70s. But when you have 88 to 90% top 2 box interest in using a product, you're in a really good place. Last but not least, and this is where we need your help. We said, what are the barriers, right? What are those things that would keep you from using this? Right? And I boxed the one that this is where we need her. I don't think enough places would accept it, right? When you think about a consumer, they love their habits. So what we need to do is make sure that this is a habit that they get used to. So if they come into a convenience store, they want it to be the same process. When they go into a grocery store, they want it to be the same process as it was at the convenience store. When they go into a bar, they would love for there to be one way to be carded. And so, that one we're going to roll out as quickly as we possibly can, and we're going to bring you along as quickly as we can. But that 33% we need your partnership on. All of those other ones in gold, we've got taken care of. All of these barriers are things that the TruAge app or the FAQs can handle for themselves, and it is resolved. So we're feeling really good about the product on here. So I'm going to turn it over to Patrick Abernathy at this point, who's got the information you've probably all joined the call for and have been waiting for, which is, when do I get it? So Patrick, can I kick it to you?
Fantastic. We've covered a lot of information here today and in our presentation, and I would like to bring us to a finishing point and a finishing line. As you heard from Jeff, NACS realized that there must be a better way to verify customer age and at the time of checkout. So Conexxus was tasked with finding a better way. As with all things that Conexxus has done, all their standards has built over the years, convenience store for the convenience store industry. They engaged their membership of retailers and vendors and created an enhanced age verification standard. With that standard, TruAge was born. We are thankful for the support of sponsors and funding this program over the past few years, and years to come. We look forward to our continued relationship with them. We also have created an executive board of some many well-known retailers in our industry as our sponsors, as you see here in this slide. With this executive team, we look forward to their continued support financially and directionally as we spread our wings and begin to soar. Next slide. Over the next several months and into the end of the next year, we are getting really excited as you see here stated on this slide. Seeing your POS system and software deployed that will now have fully integrated support into TruAge. On this slide, you can see some of the high-level deployment plans that next year brings, and some that we're still talking with to try to get them involved and get them moving this year also, or this next year also. On the side here, if you are Verifone, Yahoo! Please watch for communications over the specific releases and times and dates that this will be available for you, so you can get ready to deploy with TruAge. If you aren't Verifone, please get with your POS vendor, talk to them about what TruAge is all about, and tell them that you really need them to integrate this into their point of sale system for you. Next slide, please, Lisa. Now, I would like to cover some things that you can do as the timelines get closer and closer for you to get ready to deploy TruAge in your environment. First, today, if you have not registered as a retailer on our website, please go to the www.convenience.org/TruAge and sign up as a retailer. This way, as we have announcements and as we have product release information and news, you will get updates through your email. Once you've received a notification that your POS now supports TruAge, there are a few things that you will need to do to be complete. So to get ready, you'll sign up. Whoop, back up. Thank you. So to get ready, you'll sign up as a merchant, and you'll sign our merchant agreement, which basically covers what we do with the privacy of the data, what your responsibility of the data is. You own the data, and we establish and some things that we want to establish with you as a relationship as a retailer in our environment. We're going to establish your account online in our portal. We will set up an administrator for you and your organization, and we'll set some time aside and resources needed in your lab. We want you to set some time on your lab to test the functionality and understand how this all works so that you're ready to deploy. At launch, or once you get ready to launch, TruAge in-store marketing materials will be needed to be displayed in each of your stores. The store manager and associates will need to complete a short training exercise, nothing really hard at all, but just understanding the terminologies and some of the functionality within TruAge. You will need to select a press and marketing contact in your organization. This would be a person that we would communicate back and forth with to understand what's going on in our organization and how do they or your organization field questions and work with the media about TruAge. Next slide, please. So I am sure there's some of you that are in operations here and marketing and category managers out there with a question. What is the signage that I have to put in the store? So I'm glad somebody asked that. As you can see here, there's a few, these are some samples of the things that we would be sending you and requiring you to put up within your store. Quantities and placement will all depend upon the footprint and the size of your location. We got some shelf talkers. We got some door clings that goes on the front door. We got some beer cooler ones that go in the beer cooler door so that people understand what we're doing. And the messages on these are all based on some of the things that Lisa had talked about earlier in our surveys and stuff that we put together. All of the items are focused messages based on these things. So with these samples, Lisa and marketing team will get with your marketing contact, and we will be, helping you to put these out and deploy. And we look forward to that time that we can actually sit down and share and actually get some things rolling, which will be here shortly in the next quarter. Well, this concludes our presentation, and we now will turn this over to Kyle for questions and answers. Kyle?
Thanks, Patrick. We've got a number of questions queued up here. The first one is, and I'll let Patrick answer, is there any additional equipment required to utilize TruAge?
Today, as you've heard, we are pushing integration within the point of sale system. We do have the ability to utilize the standalone equipment. However, based on some of the things that Lisa shared there, the desire is to be integrated. And being integrated, there is no additional equipment required. Your current scanners that are utilized within your store and your current POS then would be able to utilize the TruAge that's been integrated and actually work with our system.
Great. And then the next question is, how does the convenience industry and TruAge think about age restrictions on gambling-related products like lottery? I did not see lottery on the graph of age-restricted products, yet I know that convenience stores make up a large percentage of the lottery sales market in the U.S. Yes, that's exactly true. That's a good point. We should include it on our charts. Of course, TruAge applies to any age-restricted product, right? Not only validating that the consumer is eligible to buy, but also marrying that token to the transaction log to verify that age verification had taken place. So that's a very good point about lottery, but also applicable to TruAge.
Hey, Kyle, with that, it's not just those things. If there's any type of product that within your store that requires age, as long as you flag that for age verification in your point of sale and your price book, our system will track, will age gate that through our technology.
Yeah. And then, Stephanie, this one came on your portion of the presentation. Are only convenience stores going to use TruAge?
No, the rollout with us, working with NACS and Conexxus, knowing the space that we're in, wanted to, as Jeff talked about, wanted us to be the ones to design what that looks like and bring it to market. But in order for this to take on and for us to see kind of that ramp up over the coming months and years, we know that we're going to need to be not only in different channels and different markets. So no, while we're looking at convenience, looking at also grocery, we're also taking a look at how does this work for restaurants and bars. As we did some of the surveying for consumers, we also asked them, where else do you find that you use your ID? So we learned things about concerts and festivals, sporting and gaming events. So all of those are part of the roadmap, but we've prioritized taking a look not only at the channels that we know that we need as kind of our core, but also where are there markets that allow us that makeup. And I'll use one example. So as we think about, university towns that have not only the university there, they have the mix of bars and restaurants, they have convenience stores in there, they have grocery. So that's kind of a quick top line, thought process around as we enter what we're looking at.
And marrying up those two questions, we've talked about a variety of products, hardware stores with spray paint and things like that are also age restricted. So we have a long list of places that could use TruAge and products that it should be used for.
The next question, can TruAge scan more than once per transaction if there are more than one person at the register who appears to be under 30 years old? I imagine that question is, could you scan multiple IDs on a single transaction to validate that both people either carrying the product or being presented the product are of age? Patrick, I'll give that one to you.
Yeah, that's a function of the point of sale, and most of them today only scan one age document, if you will, at the time of checkout. So what happens is in our environment to be integrated, the whole process of age gating is that once there is a product that is age gated, we scan that product, or the system then says, oh, it needs to be age verified. They scan either the driver's license or the token, and then the system knows from that point forward that you're handling with a person that is of age. So that's something that we can take back to our engineer team, and we'd have to work with the point of sales if that is something that's needed. So at this point, that's the first time I've heard of that. So thank you for that question.
Yeah. Hey, Lisa, I think this one is for you. Is the goal of TruAge at some point to be able to allow online retailers to verify a customer's ID and ship them age-restricted products?
Short answer, yes. So our vision, obviously, is we need to be where the customer wants to be and where you want your products to be. So for when we're dealing with curbside, we're dealing with delivery, when we're dealing with true full online sales, yes. The way the technology has been built, we have that ability to do that online and work with the delivery partners for those shipments as they hit home.
Yeah, Lisa, to add to that, our technology is built around REST APIs and it's shared wallet token. So any type of system, whether it's an app on a phone or it's a website or things like that, they can actually register with our systems, consume those tokens for their individuals that are needing. And the neat thing about that is once they do, they can use that to present certain items because this person is over age. They can then require verification at checkout again after they purchase them. And then we can extend this. And this is some of the areas that, we've talked about in other areas, right, today. But this is another area where delivery drivers then can be scanned through the TruAge environment to prove age. And then when you deliver, you would scan the customer at their house to prove age. Therefore, you gain the whole custody. You have the whole custody of purchase to delivery, all scanned within TruAge, and you have verification proof at that point.
All right. Thanks. Okay, next question. What is stopping someone from uploading a fake ID or utilizing another person's ID/picture on their phone if that person does not use it? Lisa, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So there are a couple of safeguards we've put into the system. The last thing we wanted was to create a system where everybody then takes their fake ID and scooches it up and then never has to look at it again. So that is kind of runs fly in the face of what we're trying to do here. So as somebody uploads an ID into the TruAge app, there are some things going on in the background that will validate that that is an authentic, true ID. Then they will also then take a selfie of themselves. And on first use, there are a couple of ways we can catch these things. First time you use it, you not only have to have the ID that was used to upload into the app, but also the app. So first use, they will scan the QR code. They will then scan the license to make sure that those are the exact same thing. And they came from the same person. And then we never want to give up the benefit of having the cashier take a look at the person standing in front of you and saying, are you the person that's in this picture and in this other picture? Now, we're not, too deluded to believe that some kid won't find a way to take maybe like a screenshot of mom's TruAge QR code and try to lay their face over the top of it. But we also have protections in place there that would mitigate that from being used, certainly not more than once, because each token is a single-use token and it's time restricted. So unless they were able to snag it really quickly and get to the store before mom used it or anybody else, it should pretty much catch most of the fake ID situations that we're dealing with.
Great. We have the question, do you have an estimate on timing for integrating with Gilbarco Passport? Patrick?
Yeah, Lisa, if you could go back to that one slide that had the timeline on it. So right now we've got, and I forgot to address this, so thank you. It gives me an opportunity. We have about three or four different vendors today, CD, minor decliner, and tenderfoot, that are fully integrated and working. And over the next half a year, first of the year, we're going to be working on getting those deployed out. Verifone and Pinnacle are on the last components of their release. They're actually getting ready to release this in base code. And so looking forward to having those out in the first quarter of the year and being able to start deploying software on those platforms mid-year this next year. Gilbarco and NCR, we are still working with them at this point. What I can say about Gilbarco is we've been given a tentative date at this point of where they would start developing within like the mid of 2023 with production release around 2024. And again, that's one of the things that, is our ask to you guys. If you are a Passport and you need feel that this is something that you want to get on board with us, and we'd be excited to do that, contact them and just let them know that you are a retailer and that you're really interested in that. Also, by signing up as a retailer on our site, on that convenience.org/TruAge site, we will get your name added to our list and see about getting you set up with our LOIs, just so we've got a list of sites and numbers and things that we can work through to actually help show vendors and different things, the support behind it from the retailers. Thank you.
All right. And this question is a good one about the capabilities of TruAge, and it's regarding protecting the channel. New age restricted products are entering our channel, and existing products are being reclassified as age restricted. One headwind we had when our industry lost the ability to sell pseudoephedrine was our inability to track buying in different stores. Having to track individual behavior is potentially a huge liability for merchants. What provisions does TruAge make to handle these emerging and difficult requirements in the future? The key, I'll take this one, the key capability, or one key capability of the TruAge system, is its systemic limitations, meaning that we can do product limitations globally among all the participants in TruAge. So if different products were limited by quantity, say like vape, if you're only able to buy 4 packages per day, the TruAge system can actually limit that and make sure that consumer that provides that age verification is limited to those 4 packages. So that's a good point, is TruAge not only validates age, but it also enables that control to limit the product quantities. This keeps items out of the social markets, and it keeps the regulators satisfied, that we are actually doing what it takes to limit those quantities. And we wouldn't, in the future, with TruAge, lose the ability to sell like Sudafed and these others that we actually don't sell anymore.
Yeah, Kyle, I think that's a great point. When you start to look at the opiate epidemic and sort of meth labs, you've got these folks that are sending, a bunch of kids out, and they're going to stores and they're buying the 2 packs of Sudafed, right? And they're just going to 100 different places to buy 2 packs each and bringing it all back to a central location. So when we have something like systemic limitations in place, that's going to get picked up every time they go to a store that has that. And so that is what will enable not only the categories we are most familiar with, but then as new categories come on board and things that have been taken away from convenience stores will get to come back into the fray, which will be great.
Yeah. Next question, do you have an API developed for the integration of TruAge verification into our mobile app? Currently, we do age gating in the mobile app. How will TruAge integrate and change that? Patrick, I'll give it to you again.
Yeah, we because our system is built around the REST APIs, like I was mentioning earlier. This is very easy to consume these the tokens within a wallet of your app. Therefore, when you bring on somebody that needs to look at age gated or age restricted items in your app, you can actually consume one of those tokens to validate that they are of age before you show them, as we talked about a little earlier. And what we would do there in that case is your development team that works with your app can actually get in touch with us, and then we would engage them with all of our teams, and we would share the mechanisms on how to actually integrate your app with our systems and utilize the tokens.
Great. How can we receive a copy of today's slide deck? Lisa?
So Conexxus is going to be posting the presentation on Conexxus365 once it's edited down, and it will be available on demand. Given we are staring down the last 2 weeks of the year, we're probably looking at early January. But if you when you registered, you allowed us to have your contact information. We will let you know as soon as it is up so that you can review it and or share it.
Great. And the next is, does enabling TruAge require an ID scan for all age-restricted flagged items, or can it be bypassed? Jeff, I'll give that one to you.
I'll start with it, and then folks who might have experience with some of these pilot tests can fill in on some of that. The ID scan is used for, with some of these tests, we found that the key thing is to have the proper training for all the retailers so that all these things, that there is no bypass. So you want to minimize a person's ability to override the system. And that's really critical in this. Anybody who's involved in retail knows that minimize the ability of the system to be bypassed maximizes the usefulness of it and the embrace of it and ultimately the ubiquity of it. Anybody else who was on some of those pilots want to address this any further?
Sure. Yeah. So, there's a couple of things that happen within the system. So there is a bypass button, and every state has different laws on when you can and cannot ID. So it will really be used at that retail level control that Stephanie was talking about. So if you're in a state that requires mandatory scanning or mandatory IDing, there will be no bypass button because it's against it's just not possible. If your brand has a policy that you card 100% of the people for age restricted products, then you have that option as a retailer to take that bypass button out of use for your folks. But the way the system is designed, it keeps that level of control in the retailer's hands because, again, we are here to help facilitate policy, not set policy. So whatever it is that you would like to be happening in your store, the system can be configured that way for you. But you do not have to, it does not force everyone to do that. And I did see another question about, does somebody always have to have the app? So just to clarify, from a perspective of using the TruAge system, you can always use a driver's license scan. They do not have to have the app if they don't want to. Once they have the app, it is preferred that they do that, get it all set up before they come into the store because it does take a minute or two to get everything where it needs to be. But yes, no, the system is very versatile in that you can use all of the forms of ID that you're using today. You can scan the driver's license or the TruAge app, or you can manually enter if somebody gives you a passport or something like that.
And I just want to underscore one thing that Lisa mentioned when we were talking about the bypass, and she talked about it earlier in the presentation as well, because some of the concerns as we were going through the concept testing and pilots was, well, if a bypass button is there, isn't everyone going to use the bypass button? And we did find early on that there was a higher percentage of the bypass. Part of that was readiness with the training as we were working through with teams and the hesitancy of, what happens if I tell someone that I have to ID. So a little bit of the nervousness around what that interaction would be. As a retailer, though, it also is a great opportunity for you to see what is happening behind the counter. And it allowed us, as the TruAge team, in partnership with the retailers we were piloting with, to have those conversations, to go back and retrain, to have conversations around, this is the intent of the TruAge system. This is what you're helping to do proactively to help protect your community. This is how it helps to protect you and the business. So there's other benefits outside of just the bypass button because of the visibility it gives you into your team and how they're dealing with your customers.
Yeah. And Stephanie makes a good point, because taking that confrontation away from the associate and the customer, if they see it as a confrontation and it just becomes part of the system requirements, then it makes it easier on the associate, right? They're not having to make a decision. Does this person look of age or not? That decision's taken out of their hands. It's done by the equipment, and that takes pressure off of the associate. So that's a big finding in the TruAge system. Okay, how do you handle third-party sales of age-restricted products? And this is a chain of custody, I think, question. Who wants to grab that? Patrick?
I think I was sharing that in the other question I was answering with embedded tokens within the applications of the ordering system or the delivery systems. We can track the chain of custody all the way from the order point, sale point, and all the way up to the delivery of the door. So that would be trackable. That token would be tracked throughout our delivery mechanisms, or delivery mechanisms that are integrated within TruAge.
Okay, it says, do you currently handle C-store, but would there be much to also handle specialty retail, liquor stores, et The answer there is this is open to all point of sale providers. And we already have, say, CDE and minor decliner and others that are in other channels. So liquor, specialty retail, yes, that it's available to those channels as well, as we outlined before.
And we've been working with, we've been meeting with the control states. So there are 17 alcohol control states in the country. And so we've been working and meeting with them, and there's a lot of interest in the product. So we hope to have 1 or 2 states up and running in the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, I think that this one is a follow-on about the chain of custody. It says that allows convenience stores to compete with Amazon and every other big online retailer as a new competitor. And yes, that chain of custody age verification that TruAge provides would do exactly that. All right. As a consumer, if you go to the store that has TruAge, do you have to then upload the app in order to be ID'd? Stephanie?
Lisa touched on this a little bit earlier too. So you have the option of still IDing through the standard driver's license, scanning the back of the barcode there. The TruAge ID though, yes, if you are looking to actually use that in store, then you would need to set up that account and have that ready on your app. First time that you go in, I can't remember if it was Patrick or Lisa that touched on this, but just reiterating, the very first time for protection on both sides is that you would have your physical driver's license in addition to the app, so that the cashier behind the counter at any of the retail locations beyond convenience and plus is able to verify that that form of ID is the same as what they're seeing on the phone and in the app. But again, short answer is no, it doesn't take away the other form of ID, but we're hoping that that makes it much more convenient and safe.
Going through the list here, I think we've covered the questions. And if there are no further questions, we want to thank everybody for your participation and your interest in TruAge. We want to thank NACS and the sponsors that have made this system possible. it's something that we really have a lot of, I guess we have a lot of spirit around and a lot of passion for. We're excited where we are. We're excited that we're near launch, and we're ready to get this system rolled out in not only the convenience channel, but in other channels. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll turn it back over to Casey.
All right. Yeah, I would just echo what Kyle has said. Thank you very much for joining us today. As a reminder, if you said that you would allow us to share your information with TruAge, we'll give that to them. They'll be able to reach out to you all when it's on demand, or if you had any questions that didn't get answered, you can reach out to them as well. And the on-demand will be available at Conexxus365.org. So make sure to look out there. You can also view past webinars there as well. So I guess everybody have a great day. Thank you for coming.